How did you waste your 20s? The thing about your 20s is no matter how you spend it, you'll wonder about the other path. Party, get wasted, spend everything you earn traveling the world. You'll wish you'd been more studious and built better foundations. Study hard, work diligently, build good foundations. You'll wish you'd partied and had more fun like the others did. I'm 28 and I've done nothing. No trips, haven't seen any music live, never go out. All I do is work and sleep. Like today, for example, all I did was work, and now I'm going to sleep soon so I can do the same thing tomorrow. Honestly, I hate life. I've had a total of 6 days vacation since I turned 20. I got a zoo pass 2 years ago, and that's the highlight of my 20s so far. Drinking heavily. We'll never get those years back. Thankfully, I realized while I couldn't go back and change the start, I could decide to change the ending. 10 years sober this month. Edit. My goodness, this blew up. To anyone else struggling or in recovery, there's help. There are people who will help. The thing that dawned on me is that I was despairing for the future because I thought it would always suck. But my drinking was also making it suck. I decided I had no right blaming the world for a terrible future if I also contributed to make the future terrible. So I decided to do everything I could to make it good. And then when it still was terrible, then I could hate the world. Funnily enough, the future got better, and I didn't need to hate/blame the world or myself. Being too shy. To anyone younger reading this, take risks. Ask that person out. Go to that local event you've been eyeing. Strike up a conversation with a cool-looking stranger. Get up on stage at a karaoke night. Volunteer. Join a club. Life is not a movie, and there is no magical special person that will notice you and can pull you into the light. You have to do that yourself. Your 20s are about finding out who you are. Nothing is wasted. I used to think time playing video games was wasted. But when I quit for a while, I missed my friends, and I missed my instant stress outlet. I used to think I wasted money, but I had a hell of a good time. I used to think I got a late start on my career from fumbling around. But I got a new career at 35 that owed in part to my very background, and I've been progressing through for over a decade. In short, none is wasted. Live every day like it is an opportunity. College. I applied for tons of internships, but never got my foot in the door anywhere. I had good grades, but there's always someone better. It seriously feels as if no human has ever seen any of my applications because I never heard anything back. It's as if I don't exist. I spent just about everything on the courses and textbooks and software. I never got to use any of what I learned. Now, years later, nearly everything I learned is obsolete. Every job application remains unread. I have nothing to show for my hard work except a lot of pain. Being too poor. On top of that, being too depressed to be able to climb out of the monumental hole, to be able to change anything. Thankfully, I did eventually make that climb. But now I'm in my 30s wishing I could do the stupid things that I would have done in my 20s with this kind of money, but knowing better so I can't, tongue sticking out. Stayed home, smoked weed, became lazy and fat, developed social anxiety. Age 24, I had enough and went cold turkey. Got a factory job breaking my back. Decided to lose weight. Ate healthy for 3 years. Left that factory job, went to college. Today, I am an IT doing the best job in the world and getting paid for it. I'm more fit, no more anxiety, and I can't stand the smell of weed. Life is what you make it. If you put in some effort and make changes, it will pay off. Just do it, don't say it. Don't think it. Stay humble while doing so. Good things will flow your way. I'm actually really lucky that the only thing I can think of is not investing more into my retirement. My 20s brought me independence from a toxic family, my wife, a job I absolutely love, and a heap of confidence I didn't have. I dealt with a spate of horrific depression and decision-making, but my wife walked with me through therapy, and it was absolutely life-changing. I made what seemed to me at the time a big pile of money in my mid-20s. It wasn't a large amount of money at all, but felt like it at the time. I just lived off it for a few years and played World of Warcraft full-time. No regrets. I wish I could go back to that time in my life in some ways. However, I fully appreciate this probably wasn't the healthiest way to exist, but I was doing exactly what I wanted to at that time. Was it a waste? Most people would probably say so. I had a blast though, and really miss not being able to just know life games to my heart's content now. Life has changed. I'm a little bit further behind in my career compared to some others, and sometimes it feels a bit odd, but I was never going to be the guy to go school, uni, job, kids rip. It's just not me, and that's okay. I was in a cult from the time I was 16 to 28. I grieve for that time I missed when I should have been doing dumb shit with friends and traveling. Thankfully, I was able to maintain a fair amount of my relationships outside the cult because that was a non-negotiable for me. I've renewed those friendships and made them stronger. Enjoy my 30s being free. Couple things here. I think waste is a bit of a construct. Like it's our life. If we enjoyed it, so be it. Like in my case, I've been working since I was 13 and then full-time at 17. I miss hanging out with friends, trips, and all sorts of things, thinking that I need to have it figured out by 20. I'm 29 now with a family and a house, and I feel like I've missed out on so much, but am thankful for what I have, and I enjoy my life. So really the time you spend in your 20s is up to you if you decide it's a waste or not. We are all just on a flying rock with limited time, so I say enjoy what you do, and hopefully in hindsight you don't think you wasted it. Procrastinating. Anything that involved making some sort of appointment or phone call, I always put off. Would generally try to devote time to doing errands all at once, and putting things off instead of taking tasks on as they come. Keeping a calendar and making a checklist is something I adopted in my 30s, and I wish I started earlier. I think a lot of people need to see this. Between 20 to 29, I did the following. Met a girl, married said girl. Got the job I wanted my whole life. Bought a house. Got 3 cats and 2 dogs. Had 2 kids. Bought a new car, then a new truck. Moved with my job and bought a bigger house. And specialized in the area I wanted to. Went to the Arctic, traveled to parts of the world I wanted to, climbed some mountains, started learning a new language, made friends, lost friends, seen friends get married. And I still feel like I wasted my 20s. So don't have any regrets. The fact that you're alive at the age you are is awesome. Living life and experiencing joy is the point of life. Keep doing what you're doing. You're great. Didn't do any introspection and soul searching. I distracted myself with a lot of shit. It took a few of the right kind of people to guide me to where I am now. By the way, the introspection and soul searching should be a constant thing. We shouldn't stop learning and thinking about ourselves and why we act the way we do. I was in the closet until I was 28 because I grew up in a conservative environment, and it took me until my mid-20s to accept my gayness and start to get over my internalized homophobia that came from growing up in a conservative environment. And the fear from growing up in a conservative environment of being rejected by friends and family kept me in the closet. Depression sucks. I lost so many friendships because of my actions, and 2008 to 2015, I couldn't keep a job for longer than 3 months. I remember specific moments from that time period, but I couldn't tell you what year they occurred. I didn't learn any new skills, and I spent too much money on food and Tinder dates. Other than a lot of hard-learned lessons and a couple failed relationships, I have nothing worth mentioning to show for my 20s. No ambition, expected great things to just happen to me. Put almost no effort into college or finding a job after that. Finally landed a job at 27 working for a newspaper, making low wages for second shifts that stole my weekends and afternoons. Never looked at the bigger picture of how much of my life I was wasting because I didn't take the time to realize it could have been better. Finally shifted careers into IT. And at least I have my weekends now in my 30s, and I'm making more, but still a long way to go. Turning 30 next month. I've advanced far from where I started 10 years ago, but I can't help but feel like I haven't lived up to my potential. I started a master's but never finished it, have been in the same medium-paying job but low for the area for the last 4 years, don't own any property, and have made some really terrible financial decisions that if I hadn't, I would be in a much better spot right now. It hurts. Got my BA, spent 3 years unemployed, teetered on the edge of full-blown alcoholism. Got really pissed at the world, took a job I hated and barely required any education. Had a supervisor that told me I'd never amount to anything, started to bust my ass just to spite said supervisor, and more than doubled my income in 5 years. Spite is a great motivator to break out of a rut, especially when the person putting you down chuckle when you ask for a day off so your dog can get life-saving surgery. Now I'm in my 30s, and my old supervisor now has to ask me for permission for things. Still have my dog too. Fundamentally, no idea what I wanted to do with my life. After I got fired from my job of 4 years at 26, a combination of reasons, probably sparked from depression after being dumped when I was 23, I spent 4 years living off inheritance money, dossing on my mate's sofa and playing Guitar Hero. I still suck, and watching the R's fall out of the economy. I remember going for a temporary data entry job when I was 28, working for the post office translating addresses on envelopes over Christmas. Completely blitzing the entrance test, short version, you needed a speed of something like 400 images per hour at an accuracy of something like 75%. And it was expected that after a few weeks on the job, you'd be at 1200 if at 90%. I scored 1464 if at 97%, and never hearing a word back from them. That was pretty much the moment I gave up looking for a job and stopped caring, and went back to Guitar Hero. Being in toxic relationships. I spent so much time in relationships, and now that I'm firmly on the other side of 30, I look back and ask how they served me, and they didn't. Not one bit. I spent my entire 20s in angst over some guy, and now I'm in deep, deep debt from being used and manipulated by the last one. I'm shattered physically, emotionally, and financially. It doesn't mean I'll never date again, but I need a break in time and space to work on myself and get my career and finances back in order. I had so many hopes and dreams and thought I was building a life with someone, but turns out they just resented me the entire time because they didn't want the same life but would never speak up about it. Ugh. I'm so frustrated and disappointed in myself, TBH. Traveling. Instead of going on to uni or getting any skills, I just work retail jobs for a couple of years, then travel for a year, rinse and repeat 3 or 4 times. People kept telling me I should plan ahead and that I couldn't just travel forever, and I'd regret it one day. Then, when I hit my 30s, I kept doing it. 1 2-year trip and another 1-year trip 5 years or so later. And you KL what? Don't regret a single decision. I've seen over 60 countries and experienced so many amazing things, and wouldn't trade any of it for a career or a family or any of that. In my 40s now, going to Nepal in a couple of months, and in 2 or 3 years I'm heading off for another couple of years to hang around South America most likely. So glad I didn't listen to people telling me I was wasting my life and that I'd have to grow up one day. Went to college and took out student loans. Now at 37, I'm still paying on them and likely will another 10 years. Should have went to a trade school and learned to work for myself. I hate working for someone else. Also was too focused on having a girlfriend and that I didn't focus enough on myself like I should have been doing. Chasing after the same girl who treated me horribly and eventually cheated on me. We were off and on for years, but we'd always find each other again, and I'd stay through all the verbal beatings because I felt I didn't deserve any better, and if I kept putting in the effort, she'd see how much I loved her. I'll be 30 in a few years, and I wish I could have backed the time I wasted on someone who only wanted me as an emotional punching bag. Pondering stuff like this, seriously, I don't have any issues on paper, got a great degree, career, wife, friends, hobbies. Very healthy, lots of accomplishments. Still found a way to be miserable and anxiety-ridden a lot of the time. But I'm working on it, trying to be more childlike. Experience wonder. Believe in things. Invest more energy in imagination and play. I don't want to be like my dad, big bank account and a big old frown. Trying to make less than stellar relationships work. I had pretty low standards and dated what I thought were nice guys that turned out to be nice guys. I met so many attractive men in my 20s, but I strongly believed in love the one you're with and being the cool girlfriend who never complained or asked for anything. So I kept trying to make relationships work when they should have ended long before I finally called it quits. Don't feel like I did. Got my first job, fell in and out of love, lived abroad for a year, came back, went to law school, partied, learned a lot. If I could go back in time, I would tell my younger self not to worry so much and to be more present. But overall, I'm glad I had fun and tried out so many things that decade of my life. Crippling social anxiety that I was in denial about. I'm on the other side now at 35 and finally living a very socially fulfilling life and finally pursuing a real career. I'm angry when I think about it, that I didn't do these things when I was younger, but there isn't anything I can do about it now. PSA, if you have a mental health issue holding you back, get that shit sorted. Talk to somebody. I lived in fear of personal growth, be it work-related, been working at the same place for 10 years, health-related or anything. I'll be 30 in 2 months and stuff is finally changing. I started working for now once a week at a new place to see if and how I can grow. This week I started swimming to get some stamina and look better. The healthy eating, sure I do make some healthy meals weekly but not enough, is still a thing, but I'm slowly working on it. One thing that changed is that for a few days I eat more than once. With an extremely controlling, abusive husband. It also turns out that I'm a lesbian. Oh, and I had undiagnosed ADHD and an autonomic nervous system disorder that everyone just blamed on me. There was very little joy. I'm 36 now, and more than making up for it since I left my ex and came out at 32. I'm not wasting any more time. It's my turn. Turns out, I'm pretty good at making my own joy, and I've never been happier. I firmly believe that for most people, their 20s are a practice decade. Too relatable. I felt like I was going through the motions because of my parents. Went to college and didn't use that time to develop new relationships, experience, and discover new things while I had the opportunity. Just pass this class, get a diploma, worry if I'll find a sustainable job. Not thinking about foresight and if I even would enjoy what I studied. I remember saying I'm old when I was 23. Now I'm in my 30s and I cringe thinking what an idiot I was. However, now I realize I'll be saying the same shit about my 30s and my 40s, so it gives me perspective to enjoy myself now. Many people here on Reddit would concur that 30s is still young too. Today is the youngest you'll ever be again, so enjoy. I hate this feeling. I am 28, and the approaching 30s are making me feel itchy. I feel like a battered, saggier version of my teenage self, with not a lot more wisdom, just a whole lot more responsibility. To see 30 looming ahead and thinking, well, I'm not really all that young anymore is freaking me out. That I'm not in the freshest, just minted adult generation anymore. 10 years ago was 18, but it feels like 3 years ago. 10 years ahead is almost 40. Will that feel like 3 years too? I was feeling pretty depressed about my 20s until I read this post. I've realized, no matter which path people choose, they're wondering about the other path. I have done 8 years of university, and so that's a good portion of my 20s. I wanted to travel all over the world and have a different life. Then I see so many posts here of people saying they regret that too. Thanks, this was a really nice comment to read. I turned 30 very soon and wonder where it all went, but I stayed fit and healthy in the gym most of this decade, was a good saver, and have lots set aside for a house. And got on a little 3-month trip to Central America in the middle. I think I did okay neutral face, don't have a PhD or anything, but I guess that's the point of your comment. It's crazy that you only get one 20s decade. Years of playing video games taught my mind that it's okay, next time I'll do X and Y to get a better result, but then you have to remind yourself you don't respawn or get to try again. That was it. How do you begin to? I've been trying so hard to stand up to them, expressing that I'm an adult now, and I could take care of myself, or at least learn to, but I'm always shut down hard. I've always said I want to move out and cut them off someday, but part of me still craves having a healthy relationship with them. I was the same way, dropped out of community college after 2 semesters. Had very few friends and worked crappy minimum wage jobs while still living with my mom for much of that time. I hate thinking of my early 20s because I think of all the time I wasted. Even if I made friends, dated, or got laid and partied, it would still be something emo, but I did none of that. That time is all just a blur with nothing to show for it and nothing learned. I'm actually about to move back in with my mom after living on my own for years, but I'm in a slightly better place, went back to school to get my degree and about to graduate. Only thing now is the job hunt has made me a bit pessimistic. This sums up my same period of time, though after I dropped out of uni at 17, I went and got a full-time job at the company I was already working at casually through high school. When I discovered I hated that job, I went and got another job in the industry. I actually wanted to study at uni. My guidance counselor said I wasn't smart enough for that, so she all but forced me to go for a more generic business course with a lower acceptance criteria. I think armed with that experience, I had something between a kind of chip on my shoulder and immense imposter syndrome, and I just put my head down and worked. If I wasn't at work, I'd be at home on my PC playing games or watching downloads. Eat, sleep, work, eat, fuck about, eat, sleep. It wasn't until I was 24 I decided to leave that job, and it was then that I started to put more pieces together in my life. On the outside, it all looks pretty normal now, but I look back at my 20s and I see a wasted decade. I was just talking to my husband about this. I feel like aside from maybe 6 weeks where we were on vacation, I've lost a decade or more to depression. I honestly don't remember it because I wasn't actually living. I was just going through the motions trying to survive one day at a time. Nothing memorable happens when you're doing that, or at least nothing that you actually want to remember. After quitting a toxic job and finding a much better mindset and new job, I have lived more of my life in the last 9 months than the previous 10 years. I hope that everyone else suffering from depression can find what works for them and start actually living again. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.